All right, y'all, this is the next segment in our monthly series where every week we're going to share with you a different way to utilize grocery store flowers, forage flowers, things that are local, budget friendly, and you can use to make a really beautiful arrangement. So let's go. All right, so in the studio today, we're going to be doing a floral arrangements with flowers that I have found at a local grocery store for this particular segment. And I wanted to share a little bit about how I think about like finding grocery store flowers. We have a couple of really good options, at least here locally, like in the South we have, and particularly in Florida, we have Publix grocery store. And so a lot of times they have like 3 for $12 um, like little groups of flowers you can get, which is a really great deal. Like you can find 3 different types of flowers. They're $4 each for the sleeve. It's awesome. The other thing though that I actually did for this one, because I really wanted to showcase how you can get a super budget friendly grocery store arrangement without it looking like a budget grocery store arrangement. I actually found these at Fresh Market, and these are a little bit more expensive. They were $15 with tax, but in total. But I like that other stores, sometimes like Trader Joe's, Fresh Market, those type of stores, if you can find unusual stems, I think that's the key. Pretty stems that are reasonably priced, but that don't look like grocery store flowers. So I really went out of my way to not get roses, to not get baby's breath. I actually did dry and had previously painted some baby's breath that I had from like a year ago from an event, that I may incorporate. We'll see what we think. But I really wanted to kind of be inspired by late summer ice cream. That ice cream kind of palette was what I went for. I even had a vase that has like almost like a honeycomb, like a waffle cone ice cream bottom to it, and I liked that. The whole purpose here is that kind of use what you have. Any type of vase would work, but today we're going to be designing with a lower vase, and so we'll talk about things to incorporate when doing that, for example. And then also, again, I tried to steer clear of like traditional grocery store flowers. I did not get roses. I did not get traditional baby's breath. I did not get greenery. And I did not get alstroemeria, which to me is like the grocery store flower. It's kind of a tropical looking flower, if you've ever seen it. And they're always very cheap, and people know that they're cheap. So I try to stay clear of that. What I love about the flowers that I got today, I got some really pretty pink, like solomillo. And then I also got some dianthus, and then some little baby mini carnations and larger carnations. And while I know some people might have a thing with carnations, there is actually a trick I'm going to show you to make these carnations not look like carnations in the end. So I'm excited for you guys to come along on this journey with me and create a little summer inspired ice cream pop of color arrangement. So let's go. All right, so I have my 2 sets of different colored grocery store flowers. We're going to start with the flower that I have the most of, that will really be kind of my base. And that is this beautiful combination of the yellow mini and regular sized carnations. And I noticed actually after I picked these up that there are a few flowers in here that are looking a little crusty and moldy, which is to be expected, honestly, with some of these grocery store flowers. They can be sitting for a while, so just make sure when you get them home like this. I haven't done anything to process them. I'm going to show you how to do that. When you get them home, just make sure. So here's the one that the one that I'm referring to that's like very moldy and yucky. We're going to take that off for sure. Get that bad boy out of there. These two actually are yucky. And you can actually see it. It's kind of crazy. You can see the mold. And then I'm going to take off like the smaller pieces from the stem. Like I should say the pieces that are lower down on the stem, because we can use those later. But just want to kind of have this size and up, because what you want to do is when you're thinking about the arrangement itself, right? So if it's this size, you really don't want to go more than double that size on height. So just kind of keeping that in mind. After I take off, some of those lower blooms, I'm also going to just kind of fluff out. You can literally, carnations are like indestructible almost, kind of fluff out the center of these. Another way you can do this, if the centers are really tight and you're having trouble opening them, this is a really cool trick. You actually grab another carnation and you put them together and you kind of just fluff it with the leaves of the other carnation. So you're not getting your hand oils all over it. And that's a really nice way to fluff your stems out, make them nice and full. Okay, so we got those going. All right, I'll keep working on this. And once I've finished these, we'll circle back around to start designing. Okay, so we finished processing the flowers. I actually did not cut any of them yet. I'm going to cut them as I put them into the arrangement because I know I'm going to have to cut all of them. If you wanted to, though, you could certainly give them a nice little snip when you first get home from the store, just at a 45-degree angle, maybe an inch up, and then put them in some good clean water. So I'm going to start and just get a sense of kind of the base and how I want that to look for this. Just kind of get some of these little lower ones in there. And again, I'm just going to get that maybe an inch or two up. I'm going to add uh, layers, more layers and levels. But to start, I'm just going to start with these little cuties. Get some of those in there. Any brown petals I'm taking off, just kind of noticing again. You know, that is to be expected sometimes with grocery store flowers, unfortunately. It happens. And I just love this yellow on kind of the more golden yellow. I actually like doing variations of color like that. Color palette consideration and color theory, I think, is really fun. I do have a couple of videos on that. I'm going to be doing more, but understanding how color can work together is a really important part, I think, of just increasing your knowledge in floral design. And so sometimes I'll do a single color, but in a range of the shades of that color. And I think that can be really pretty. In this case, I'm actually doing a bit of a contrast, right? We have this yellow, some of this almost a golden yellow orange that really, I think, plays well with the pinks. So again, a range of colors that really coordinate and accent each other well. And I think, you know, if you're just starting out, consider just what you like. You know, if there are colors that you like together, go ahead and get those. If you're not as comfortable and you don't want to, you know, really push any limits, or you don't want to have to think about it too much, getting anything in a range of the same color, I think always looks cool and chic, and you really can't go wrong. So here you can kind of see, I'm just building out basically that first kind of lower layer of some stems. I like having them a little bit different heights, slightly, but more or less kind of in line with each other. And pop some of these in. And this is starting to look full and nice and fun. And so what I'm going to start to do now is consider how I want to use, because I'm pretty much done here with these bad boys. Now I'm going to consider how I want to use the bigger carnations that were in the bunch. And this is where I'm going to show you the trick, because to me, mini carnations actually look a lot like dianthus anyway. So I don't feel like we need to like make these look any different per se. But larger carnations, there's nothing you could do about it. They look like carnations. But one way that I like to make these look really beautiful and different is to actually take the center petals out of the carnation. And I'll show you how to do this in a second. And what it does is it actually makes the carnation look almost like a Lysianthus, in my opinion. And you really kind of got to get in there. You're really going to pull some out. And at first it might seem sad, but it looks really cool. So you're literally pulling them out of the center. And just getting a nice opening there where you can see the center of the carnation. And like, look at that. I just think that is so cool. So cool. Okay. So we're going to do a couple like that. I think of just making it look unique and beautiful. We're going to cut off these bottom stems. Now here for this larger, unique, different stem, I would like it to be a little bit elevated. I want there to be some variation in height in this arrangement. And so I'm going to cut off, let's see how that looks, just so that we have maybe an inch above this sort of base layer of variation. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. So we're going to go in and put the carnations, take out the petals in the middle. I mean, that's like, see, I take out a big chunk at a time. I mean, to really get that kind of unique look. So, okay. That was a little lower than I would have liked, but I also want to have a little bit of that variation in height, so that's okay. I mean, I think my biggest thing in floral design, honestly, is just, you know, follow what feels beautiful to you. And practice. Like, there is no wrong way to do this. Just enjoy working with flowers. And that is the best piece of advice I could give to anyone. interested in floral design. There is truly, I mean, I think all of us feel drawn to this, right? Because it's fun and it's beautiful. And so I think my biggest thing is, as a designer, if you're watching this video, I hope that you just enjoy what you're doing as you're doing it. So we're going to keep going. I want to have a little bit more height on this side. So we're going to see, yeah. And you can do exactly what I just did, where I'm like kind of assessing before I cut it, like where I want it, how I want it. And I think that's a little too high. Another step. I'm cutting these at a 45-degree angle, of course, so that they soak up lots of good water, which is what they need, especially after being in that poor grocery store cooler. They're finally home to be enjoyed and loved on. So we want to take good care of them. All right, so this is the last carnation, and then I'll show you what I do with the other dianthus. And I like how this is kind of starting. It's very playful. We have these dimensions here. It is not perfect by any means, but it's fun to me, and I like the way it's looking. So we're going to kind of keep going with this vibe here. This is a little tall for me. I'm going to just cut this down ever so slightly because I feel like it's just out of line. Okay. So now we're going to cut the dianthus. There's no real trick here for me with dianthus, other than that, again, you want to cut at a 45-degree angle. You want to make sure that everything is nice and full. These are just so cute, these dianthus. And I like that they're unusual. I wouldn't expect that this came from a grocery store necessarily. I don't see these all the time, at least in my grocery store. And I think that's part of the fun, right? Of like creating something that people might not know was created from grocery store flowers. And at this time of year as well. So I think that's fun. So for the dianthus, I'm actually not going to cut off. This is just a little piece of greenery, so I will take some of that off. But I'm not going to cut off any of these lower stems. I think I want to see how they look potentially. Again, just assessing if they're really sticking out a bit from the crowd here. And making this just kind of, again, multi-dimensional. So I'm going to see how this looks. Now this one is too low, I think, but maybe that one too. We'll put that somewhere else. But I'm liking like this height compared to where the yellows are. I like that the pinks are really reaching, kind of, right? They're like, hello, I'm coming out to play in your ice cream palette. And so again, these are pretty tall too. So I'm going to cut some of these off and just have little one-offs, which is good too. I like if you're going to have like groupings that come naturally with the flower. I like that then I have these single stems I can also place. I think that's really nice, a nice option. So I like how this is coming along. This is starting to get filled out. Again, cutting at a 45-degree angle. Popping these bad boys all in here. And it's starting to look like the ice cream arrangement of my dreams. When I went into the store, I said, ooh, I have a cute little ice cream vase, inspired vase that I can use. And so I think, you know, if you're thinking about inspiration beforehand, that's great. If you go into the store and say, ooh, I think I like that, and that's your inspiration, and you don't have any forethought, that's fine too. It's really all about, I think, just letting your creativity lead the way. And I said that I might be using this purple baby's breath, but I almost don't know if I need it. This is so full. I'm like really impressed and surprised with 2 bunches of flowers, what I can get. So what I'm actually going to do though is one thing that I always try to do with my arrangements is I do like when it feels a little bit more organic at the bottom. So what I'm kind of going around and doing is just filling in, seeing where I can sort of let the flowers come down a little bit, if that makes sense, in the design. So like right here, for example, I feel like it's all going up and there's not enough movement kind of around and down. So like I just placed this pink one here to kind of give it some volume and depth a little bit further down. I think that that's really good. You can kind of bend stems sometimes, like I just did too, which I think is fun. And you know, you can bend them to move them a little bit where you want them. There are also ways, and I'll be doing more videos on this, that you can actually insert small wires, like basically very similar to like a jewelry wire, but it's a green coated floral wire. And you can actually also use that to insert into stems inside the stem, and then you can bend it however you'd like. In this case, we just want to make something cute and pretty and ice cream inspired, so we'll stick with this. But what I like about this is that it's just cute and fun and feels, like ice cream in a little vase. I think if I were to give this to someone or to have this in my home, I might, like, I'm as I'm looking at these, I'm like considering, do I want to add like a little purple maybe? I could, but for the sake of saying it's all grocery store flowers, I won't. The other thing I might do though is maybe tie it with a cute bow. So I probably, let me show you. I'll go grab some ribbon and show you. Okay, so again, thinking about color theory. So yellows and oranges accent really well on the other end of the palette with blues. And so I'm just thinking, out loud, if I were to again, like to have a little ribbon on this, might do something like this, just as like so you can see visually, just that color is kind of pretty with that. So that's an idea. But I mean, all things considered, for $15 with tax, I am really happy with how this little cutie came out. She's very summery, late summer, and the color palette's really fun and fresh. And all of this came from the grocery store. I had the vase, with that exception, of course. But I think there are a lot of things you can do this time of year, especially with grocery store flowers. So I will see you next week for the next inspiration that we have each month, every week. And thanks for being here. We'll see you soon.